In this note sheet, we're working on evaluating expressions with substitution, which sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. Our focus question is, how can I use substitution to evaluate an expression for a given value? So what does it mean to evaluate? Or what does evaluate mean? Evaluate is just really a fancy word to do the math. When we're evaluating, we're getting an answer. We have a math problem in front of us, we do it, and we get an answer. Substitution is when we replace a variable with a given value, aka switch for an equal. You might hear the word substitute or sub when you think about sports. If Messi is playing bad in his soccer game, they will substitute or switch him out for another player. So substitution is we switch a variable. A variable is just a letter that we use to represent a number or value. For example, if we have 5x minus 7, x is our variable. We might have an expression with more than one. We might have something like y squared minus 12 plus 3m. And in that case, we have y and we have m. We have two variables in that expression. So when we're given an expression with variables, we can evaluate the expression by switching the variable for the given value. This process in this sentence right here is known as the substitution. So we substitute the values and evaluate the expression for the values given. So let's look at the example down below. This says, evaluate the expression 2w plus 5 when w equals 4. What I'm going to urge to you, or what I'm going to ask you, is to remember to use parentheses when you're just putting in these numbers. Because I don't want to see numbers getting smushed together or numbers getting added when they should be multiplied and things like that. So when I go, w equals 4, when I go to switch in that for w, I have 2w plus 5. Well, w is 4. So I'm going to put a 4 in there. This was 2 times w, right? 2 times w plus 5. 2 times w plus 5. If you remember GEMDAS, our order of operations, those still apply. We have multiplication here, addition here. The multiplication is going to happen first. 2 times 4, and that's 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. And so that's our answer. Unfortunately, this will be the easiest example you see. There's some examples on the back that we're going to walk through together. Like this first one up here. Oops. Let's see if it wants to focus. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. So this expression says 2m plus 5 over r when m equals 11 and r equals 3. So let's rewrite that. 2m plus 5 over r. Well, r is 3, m is 11. So now I've rewritten that expression. Since it's a fraction, I'm going to do the top part separate from the bottom part. Here I have multiplication and addition. So again, I'm going to do the multiplication first. 2 times 11 is 22. 22 plus 5 is 27. So I have my top part and my bottom part, well, that's just 3, so it's already done for us. If I put those back together, 27 over 3, or 27 divided by 3, equals 9. In our next example, it says to evaluate the expression w squared parentheses 5y minus x parentheses. There's a lot in there. We've got 3 different variables. We start with w though, and w is negative 3. So negative 3 squared, then I have parentheses again. 5y, y is 4, so I'm going to put a 4 in there, minus x is 5. And so there's my expression. Again, we're going to do the order of operations first. So inside this big grouping I have multiplication here. 5 times 4 is 20. Still have this negative 3. In my grouping, I'm still not done yet. 20 minus 5 is 15. And I still have this negative 3 squared. So now we're going to do that exponent. Negative 3 exponent 2 is 9. 9 times 15 is 135. Over here we have this fraction, but if you remember the math burpees we talked about, you'll be A-okay. Before we worry about that fraction though, we're going to substitute or put in our x. So we have 5 over 9, x, which is 9, exponent 3, plus 3. This is division and multiplication, but first we're going to do that exponent. 9 exponent 3 equals 729. Okay. So now we're going to do that math burpee. I'm going to zoom out to show you. 5 divided by 9, and we're multiplying, so times, and you see the gross long decimal, times 729 equals 405. Nice and neat. And now our last step, plus 3. 408. If we round this 5 over 9 to 0.55, or even 0.556, and then we multiply it, our answer is going to be wrong and not exact. So that's why we do those math burpees. We do them all in one step. Okay. So now we look over here. It's the same idea. The expression looks different, but the math is the same. Everywhere we see the letter C, we're going to plug in negative 2. So this is going to become 4 parentheses, negative 2 plus 3 plus 2 around negative 2 squared. Once we've put in negative 2, now we're just worrying about the order of operations. I do have grouping here with this negative 2 plus 3 in parentheses, so that's what I'm going to do first. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So now I'm just copying down the rest of my expression. I got rid of my grouping, and so if I look here, oh, I have an exponent. Negative 2 exponent 2 is 4. Now I'm just copying down the rest. And if you're wondering how I use the exponent button, it's this button, it's this button right here on your calculator. 4 times 1 plus 2 times 4. We do have multiplication here and addition. Multiplication, if you remember, is what's going to come first. So 4 times 1 is 4. And then if you look here, this is still multiplication. So we're not going to do 4 plus 2. First we have to do 2 times 4. And that is 8. Now we can do 4 plus 8 to get 12. And that's our final answer. Okay. These two problems on the bottom, I know they look intimidating because they have a lot of words, but again, the math is exactly the same. If we look down here, we have an equation or an expression, and we were told what the letters represent. What it tells us is that the area, A, of a trapezoid can be found using the formula A equals 1/2 h parentheses b1 plus b2. What is the area of a trapezoid if b1 equals 12, b2 equals 7, and h equals 6? This 1 and this 2 are not exponents. They're just telling us that the same letter B is used for two different numbers. Kind of like if we had two Johns in class. We would have John 1 and John 2. So if we look, again, we're doing the same kind of math. A equals 1/2. H, well, H is 6. Then we have B1, 12, plus B2, which is 7. And so now we're just going to simplify this expression. We're not going to worry about the A. Here we have grouping, so we're going to do that grouping first. And copy down the rest. Here we have 1/2 times 6, which if we do that in our calculator, we can do it math burpee style. 1 divided by 2 times 6. That's going to be 3. And then 3 times 19 is 57. So that's our answer. It's really important that up here we realize that in between each of these is a multiplication symbol. It doesn't get written there, but it is there. So it's really important that we remember to multiply all these numbers together. And last but not least, we have this problem, which in here, there's a lot of information. And that information explains where our expression or where our equation comes from. It says that Cricket Wireless offered you a wireless plan that charges $12 a month for unlimited data and $15 or $0.15 per text message M sent. You use the equation below to determine how much your bill will cost. C equals 12 plus 0.15 M. How much will your bill cost if you sent 450 text messages in a month? So they tell us that M equals 450, and they gave us this equation or expression to work with. So all we're going to do is the same thing we've been doing before. We're going to take our number for M and plug it on in. We're not going to worry about C for right now, but we have 12 plus 0.15 times M, which is 450. We have to make sure we do the order of operations first. So here we're actually going to multiply these first. 0.15 times 450. That's going to give us 67.5. And now we can say, okay, 12 plus 67.5. And that is 79.5 or 79.50. So I know that these problems can be scary because there's a lot of words, but as long as you read it and you notice the math and then look for the letter or for the variable that they're giving you, it can make your life just a little bit easier.